Decisions live on SportsGrid. It is a Monday night. I'm Kevin Walsh, and not only do we have a fun little NBA slate, tickets to be punched for the NCAA tournament with some pop-off college basketball. The WCC presents the ranked action tonight. Light NHL board. We will go through it all. But NFL free agency today kicked off huge with big moves that changed the market. So we begin with the biggest deal of the day in the NFC South. Whoa! Is that Kirk Cousins playing quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons? It sure is. Falcons moving to minus money to win the NFC South as the Falcons make the splash to take Kirk Cousins as their lead man. For Minnesota, it makes sense. It feels like it is time for a reset. They could have brought Kirk Cousins back in and attempted to compete for that division, but the division is getting better. Detroit being able to retain Ben Johnson for a year. Green Bay popping off down the stretch, and the excitement around Jordan Love and the Chicago Bears getting to bring in Caleb Williams, we assume. Now you get the Minnesota Vikings here, who will have to figure out if they want to draft. Maybe they pull Justin Fields out of Chicago, but they see Kirk Cousins go. And Atlanta now has a lot of optimism because the quarterback position was the last waiting item. The defense was good enough last year, but with Raheem Morrison as their head coach, there's excitement there. Weaponry, they check a lot of boxes. Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. There's optimism abound in Atlanta. But that division is much better than people realize. Tampa ended up legit good last year and made it to the second round of the NFC playoffs. As we bring our radio audience into the fold with you here on Sirius XM, Channel 159, it's Kevin Walsh. It's Game Time Decisions. We are talking some NFL free agency news that shifted the market. New Orleans and Derek Carr in year 2 of that situation all will now look to challenge Kirk Cousins, who is currently wearing the label of the best quarterback in this division. We'll see if it holds true. Running back news. Now, as the most unbiased man in the history of sports media, this is a bit tough. This is a bit tough because I don't want to spend the remaining 2 hours on this show laughing. That would be rude of me. It would be in poor taste. But, God, come on. Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle. Here's the deal. The Giants had to let him go. That was the right decision. The Eagles were looking to make a splash, and that's exactly what they did with Saquon Barkley. This team's season ended in disaster. They ended up with one of the worst seasons that any team had last year. When you look at expectations, in-season expectations, the way it ended, and the fallout from all of it. I mean, Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox retiring only compounds it. They needed something to lift the vibe within that locker room, provide confidence, provide excitement. All the news around the Eagles is we might fire this guy, this guy's retiring, we might trade this one. It's all bad. It's all bad. Saquon fixes that. It is top of the market money for the running back position, which typically the Philadelphia Eagles do not want to do. The last time they tried this, they pulled DeMarco Murray out of Dallas. I personally am hoping for more success. I'm very interested to see what the Saquon season-long props look like playing with Jalen Hurts in that backfield. Josh Jacobs to Green Bay. I got to tell you, the KW running back team list did not do bad here because the Eagles were in the mix there, and I thought the Green Bay Packers would be as well. The Tennessee Titans getting Pollard was a bit stunning. We also saw the Bears go in for DeAndre Swift, but Josh Jacobs stunned a ton of people here around the league joining the Green Bay Packers. This team had some money. Aaron Jones aging. They don't love A.J. Dillon. It's reasonable here. They're going to look to use him, I think, as a bell cow back. And from that end of it, it makes sense. Look, this team is way young at the wide receiver position, and a quarterback in Jordan Love who now enters his second year as a full-time starter with a lot of optimism. So putting more pieces around him makes plenty of sense. And again, Josh Jacobs filling in for the released Aaron Jones, and we'll see how much A.J. Dillon ultimately factors in. Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler, the two big-name running backs that remain on the board. Again, Pollard to Tennessee, DeAndre Swift to Chicago. One last piece of quarterback news, and we will be talking to Adam Kaplan in 5 minutes and Joe Lisi in about an hour's time here about all these moves. But Gardner Minshew makes this opening item of breaking news because he is going to be competing for a starting job with Aiden O'Connell. Maybe the Raiders grab somebody in the draft. I don't think in round 1, 2, or 3, possibly. But that's important, one, because this is very possibly a starting quarterback heading into the next year. But two, one of the huge fallouts in the last 24 hours, the top 3 teams for Justin Fields all answered quarterback. Pittsburgh grabbed Russ, Atlanta grabbed Kirk Cousins, and the Raiders grabbed Gardner Minshew. I mean, it feels very Vikings or bust for Justin Fields. We will see how it all lands. There's plenty of other news for us to get to. Michael Pittman paid. T. Higgins requested a trade. Gabe Davis is in Jacksonville for a boatload. So we'll get to all of that here. But let's open up tonight's slate and put some eyes on some big games, okay? By the way, Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh. We'll hit on this. Super cheap deal. Was it worth it for the Steelers? The contract certainly factors in. I'll just tell you this, and it's total touchdowns, but still, these numbers lie. They say numbers don't lie. They did this year. Baker Mayfield stays in Tampa Bay. Look, the Bucs just keep winning this division. I mean, that's the reality on Tampa Bay. And a lot of people are already counting out the Bucs. Kept Mike Evans, kept Baker. You know, are we sure Baker's not the best quarterback in this division? Even if Kirk Cousins showed up, I'm not. Be careful with that Buck slander. As I said, slate, college basketball, James Madison. We did play a future on this team in the Sun Belt final. App State got bounced. Arkansas State, the Red Wolves, the 4-seeder in the mix. Let's go JMU. We're rooting it on. Samford got a little bit of a gift here playing East Tennessee. Chance to beat that team as a double-digit favorite. But the big games in the West Coast Conference. Gonzaga against the Dons, laying 9. St. Mary's against Santa Clara, laying double digits as well. The expectation is these teams win and advance and play each other in the WCC final. There's a few other big games on the college board. I've got 4 sides on college tonight that we will get to. Let's bring the NBA slate into the fold. Some big news got confirmed right before we got going involving the game between the Cavs and the Suns. And that is that Devin Booker is back. It's why Phoenix is such a strong favorite against the Cavs tonight. It's something to keep our eye on. Other thing to keep your eye on, a lot of questionable tags. For Boston, game time decisions, we'll see who checks in, but it's why the number is so light. Denver laying a oodles of points to Toronto, Dallas, and Chicago. Can Luka Doncic continue to put up 30-point triple-doubles routinely? How about a quick pick from the ice? Ice has been hot. How about last night, myself and Joe Madden talking about, was it last night? No, it was not last night. It was Sunday. It was the morning. Connor Bedard, 2+ goals. What a stud. Give that kid Rookie of the Year right away. That's the deal. But today on the ice, Mika Zibanejad at home, the New York Rangers. He gets on the board with an assist. This is plus money at plus 116. Mika right now, 7 straight games without an assist. 6 straight games without a point. Way too good for that. He's got a ton of points at home this season. This is his longest stretch run. They're home favorites with a big-time total of 6.5 against the Devils. He will step up. Adam Kaplan is in the mix. Next, it's game time decision. Let's rock.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
4.22. The fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. We're back right here on Game Time Decisions. Coach James Young will be here in about 10 minutes, and we have plenty of college and NBA picks. But we have to start with the breaking news in the NFL, and nobody better than NFL insider Adam Kaplan to help us break this down. And Cap, Kirk Cousins goes to the Atlanta Falcons, and, the tea leaves started to suggest that this was possible here. Big-time money once again for Kirk Cousins with the Atlanta Falcons here, a 4-year deal, tons of guaranteed money. What did you make of this move here for Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, I alluded to this on Coast to Coast last week, that if he doesn't go back to Minnesota, and I'll admit I thought he would still go back to Minnesota, I really did, but they were not going to pay him his asking price, and that's why he left. Atlanta was the team. And the reason why is very simple. They're running pretty much the same exact offense in Atlanta, West Coast offense that Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings head coach, is running. They're running their version of Sean McVay's offense. Zach Robinson is the new OC for the Falcons. Kevin, he came from the Rams. So this is a great fit for Kirk Cousins. It makes total sense. And now they have a highly competent quarterback. I totally get it. Yes, he's coming off a torn Achilles. Assuming he's good to go for training camp, Kevin. Kyle Pitts has got a competent quarterback thrown to him.
Mm-hmm.
Drake London, who's a former first-round pick. He's going to have a quarterback thrown to him. They got Bijan Robinson at running back. They've got a good, developed young offensive line, mostly young offensive line, a couple of veterans, mostly young. This offense is going to cook this season. There's no question about it. Falcon fans, you should be excited. You finally have a quarterback. I haven't seen the stretch of the game, so Kevin, that's always simple. Mm-hmm. How many years will we guarantee that will actually be with the football team? But now you don't have to worry about a quarterback. Now they could build the defense with pass rushers in Atlanta.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Cap, there's excitement in the market. This team has moved to not just the favorite. They've been the favorite on speculation about the quarterback position, but a minus money favorite. But March is the time of upsets, and, well, we just got one because Justin Fields at some of these books, Cap, was over minus 400 to have the Atlanta Falcons be his next team. I think Pittsburgh had the second odds, and I think the Vegas Raiders had the third. Pretty sure they all figured out quarterback in the last 24 hours or so. Are you surprised where Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears currently sit, and who in the world could be involved with Justin Fields moving forward?
All right, Kevin, let me bring you inside the situation. So at the Combine, I didn't have the same feeling last year when the aforementioned Bears and Panthers were working, where one source connected to the talk said it was at 75% done, the big trade that both teams made. I never got the feeling there was any steam. Whether it's the Steelers or Falcons, I just never felt that way. And the book on Justin Fields is very talented young guy, good arm, not an accurate enough passer, not a good fit for a timing system like the West Coast offense. And here you go. Here we are. We go forward here. They don't have a home for him. So he's going to be a Bear for now. They really have to move him before his fifth-year option is due on May 2nd. Now, they're not going to want to be forced to have that guaranteed for next year. No, they could take the risk and then think they're going to move him before it's due, before the salary is due next year. But they're in a tough way, Kevin. It's not what they're expecting. I know that for a fact. They thought they'd be able to get good value for him. Not only are they not getting good value, they don't have a home for him. Is there a possibility to stay with the team? Sure. And Kevin Warren, by the way, their owners, I told Pharrell on Coast to Coast weeks ago, the CEO, Kevin Warren, the CEO for the Bears and the team president, he's heavily involved in every big football decision. He went on record with Jared Payton, Walter Payton's son, on WGN TV and said, look, the reasons that we're happy with Justin Fields, we think he's developing. It'd be nice to be able to keep him. He's not making the call. Ryan Poles, the GM, is making the call, but that may have been a portent of things to come, Kevin. They don't have a home for him, and right now he's a Bear.
I guess there's worse things than having Fields and Caleb Williams be your quarterback room. Time will tell. Cap, let's get, though, to Saquon Barkley, Philadelphia Eagles news that broke today. My read, Cap, and look, you speak to people, you'll have a better read, but my read is there's been a lot of bad news for this team since the losing streak began, the season ended, Sirianni's job was on the line. I mean, the veteran Cox and Kelsey retiring, again, you can speak to that, better than I can, but from a fan perspective, that was heavy. The Fletcher news hit me somehow more than the Kelsey news did. This team needed a positive piece of news. Maybe they overpaid for that positive piece of news, but the excitement that Eagles fans, I feel, have after seeing Saquon join their team is the most since they beat the Buffalo Bills in overtime. What's your read on Saquon to Philadelphia?
All right, so I would say, first of all, Kevin, this is my 25th year of covering the National Football League. There's really, and let's call it like it is, Howie Roseman, the general manager of the Eagles, is the most aggressive of the National Football League. When he wants that player, more often than not, he gets that player. They were super high on Saquon Barkley in 2019 when he was coming out of Penn State. Obviously, they were not picking anywhere near there, but they loved him, and now they got him nearly 6 years later. So, look, Saquon did not have a very good year. And it's not that they signed him, Kevin. I knew they were on him. I just, like you just said, I didn't think they'd pay that much, over $12 million a year for a guy coming off of a difficult season. I get it that the Eagles' offensive line is arguably top three. He's going to have plenty of big holes to run through. And there's no question that Saquon has done some great things in his career. Super high character guy. You don't never worry about anything off the field. But you do worry. He's not an older player, but you do worry about the injury history. And I don't want to say he's in a regression, but he did fall off last season. But again, the Giants' offensive line is pitiful. They have one guy, the left tackle Andrew Thomas. They've not done a good job over the years, going back to Dave Gettleman, their former GM, of building that offensive line. So they've got to do that. But you don't win in March. You don't win Super Bowls in March. You don't try to win the offseason. You want to make smart moves. This one's a little bit questionable for the money. I think that's fair. But they also brought in Bryce Huff, a former undrafted free agent in 2020 for the Jets defensive end. This was, as I'm told, was the top target for them. They got that done. Formerly the Jets. The Jets really couldn't afford to bring him back because they've got Jermaine Johnson, who was going to start over him anyway. He's only started 7 games, though, Kevin, in his career. He's been mostly a sub-package rusher. But he's a very talented guy, super upside guy. They were looking for a guy with length at 6'4", 6'3.5", 6'4", 255 plus. Really talented guy. And the Eagles were in on, as I understand, Xavier McKinney, the former Giants safety who went to Green Bay. So they had a lot of cash to spend, good cap space, and the Eagles are trying to spend it. They'll still be in the safety market, by the way. They'll be looking to sign a veteran safety at some point soon.
Cap, speaking of Green Bay, they make the move for Josh Jacobs. That comes with the news that Aaron Jones is going to be released here. Green Bay being involved in the running back market, I thought that was possible. Paying for Josh Jacobs, maybe that end of it is a bit surprising. A lot of people were stunned by this news. What do you think about Josh Jacobs landing in the Green Bay situation?
Yeah, it's a surprise because what they want to do is cut Aaron Jones's pay, but he's an aging player, obviously around 30 years old, and you've got Josh Jacobs, who somehow is only 26. I know he turns 27 this year, I believe, but last year was not his fault. They fired the head coach, Josh McDaniels, at midseason. He was the play caller, so that kind of curtailed their offense. He's very versatile. He's a bell cow back. You don't have to worry about Dylan coming back. He could be the guy, and he will be the guy. Aaron Jones was officially actually released. That actually happened. But look, their offense is phenomenal. Look, their offense is super young, 26 or younger. Their receiver core, the youngest in the National Football League. Jordan Love coming off for breakout season. Their offense is phenomenal, Kevin. Not only the obvious call in that division, the NFC North, the question is in the hierarchy of the NFC where they're going to rank. And I'm very interested to see what the future numbers on the Packers for this season are.
I mean, I tell you, Cap, I've been telling people this. Sit down, rank the best quarterbacks in the NFC, and you'll be stunned where, Jordan Love would land. And I think there's a lot of people who have Jordan Love incredibly high. Cap, this is just the beginning of it. Today, T. Higgins requested the trade. We're still waiting to see what happens with Derrick Henry. Justin Fields, as we obviously at the top. All of that news is going to continue to spill out as well. And to keep it up to date, that'll be Adam Kaplan, the NFL Insider, helping us. Cap, thanks so much. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, awesome stuff as always there from Adam Kaplan. Again, a lot more. Maybe some news will break during this show. But up next, it's Coach James Young breaking down the basketball slate.
Letting points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Welcome back. Kevin Walsh with you here. It is Game Time Decisions. We are rocking and rolling. Coach James Young is in the mix. JY, I want to start with this. I love the shirt today. Feels like a first. I could be wrong, but I think that's an appropriate starting point to talk some college basketball. How are you, sir?
Hey, JY got his Easter Bunny shirt on. You know what I'm saying? I got my little green on. I'm at the head the Vineyard Vines afterwards, do a little bit of shopping. But we got some picks to talk about. Let's get busy.
Now, JY, some would say that I just buttered you up because I need something from you. I'm a bit worried right now. So JY and I went head-to-head Creighton-Villanova, and it was actually ended up one of the weirdest games of the season. Creighton gets the job done. We then went head-to-head yesterday, and let's be honest, Wisconsin stole that game from Purdue from the cover angle of it all. JY, I don't bring this up to say I'm right. Trust me, that is not why I bring this up. Here's why I bring this up. We have a head-to-head today again.
What?
And I'm not really sure how I feel about trying to build a 3-game winning streak on JY. And I'm going to be honest with you, Coach, it's my best bet. So I'm a bit nervous. I'm being honest with you, Coach. Full transparency. I haven't even done the card yet. Nobody knows what the heck I'm talking about. We're talking about some WCC basketball, though, JY. Gonzaga, San Francisco. Tell the people what you like in this game. Oh,
Kevin,
boy.
all right, listen. You got lucky, by the way. By the way, I got to admit.
I know.
That Wisconsin game was one of the worst beats of all time. I mean, I still can't believe it. That's not important. But I am going to go with Gonzaga here. Kevin, I think this team has turned the corner, okay? I know they covered the last two games, that big weekend that they had, right? When they went to San Francisco and they won by 18. They went to St. Mary's, won by 13. This team, to me, is rolling and playing as good as, ready, folks? Almost as good as anybody in the country. Now, I know San Fran is very good, and I know they're even capable of winning this game. But I think looking at them being 3-7 against the spread their last 10, I think Gonzaga's playing this well. I'm going to go Gonzaga minus the points in the WCC semifinal. They don't have work to do. They got seeding work to do, and I think they win tonight and win impressively.
I'm on the Dons. I'm on the Dons plus the 9. What I'd give for JY to have got Gonzaga at like 8, and we can just try and, I don't know, figure it out. Here's my angle on San Francisco, okay? I think they've had a heck of a season. And I know it's going to be close to impossible for them to steal this WCC title because it is built for the 1 or the 2 seed to win it. And St. Mary's and Gonzaga are comfortably better basketball teams. But I wonder a bit if the edge is off Gonzaga because 5 weeks ago, JY and I were talking about them needing to win this tournament to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Gonzaga just played San Francisco on the road and beat them by a bunch. But they were only 3.5-point favorites in that game. Now, that was on the road, but switching out of San Francisco to a neutral court does not create 5.5 more points. It just doesn't. The Dons have a slightly better defense, and the most important thing for me, JY, that gave me enough trust to bet this team, at Gonzaga, at St. Mary's, they lost both, but they were both decided by 5 or less points. It's funny because usually if you bet a team, you think they can win, and I think there's a chance the Dons could steal it. They have to keep this game competitive early, have to. But I think they can hang with inside this number. I like this basketball team. You know I love this Zags group. I agree with you. Look, they're one of the 15 best teams in college basketball. Make no bones about it. I'm giving them a chance, though, to hang inside this number.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's cases to be made for both sides. And you could argue that the WCC, Kevin, could be better than some high major conferences. Big Ten, talking to you. But to me, it's going to be a great matchup, and it's an intriguing matchup in the WCC. Yeah, yes. Listen, Kevin, can San Francisco win this game? Absolutely. But you are right. You will know they can't let this game get away from them in the first 10 minutes, right? If they're down 8, 10 points first 10 minutes, it's over, go to bed. It's one of those games where if you're in San Francisco, you keep it close, and then you steal it in the end. As long as it's a close game in the last 3 minutes, Kevin, you should be fine because I don't think the foul game, you get yourself to 9.5, 10 points.
The Gonzaga's ability to be up 15 points 9 minutes into this game is worrisome. I'll tell you this, though, JY. You have another pick that I love. I bet James Madison at plus 135 to win the Sun Belt Conference tournament with the thought that App State could be upset. And if App State was not upset, they were not beating JMU 3 times this season. App State was upset. Arkansas State's a good group. I think JMU is comfortably better. I expect to cash that conference tournament ticket tonight. And I know you like the Dukes in their matchup with the Red Wolves.
Very simple. They're not playing App State. I mean, and that's the thing. And here's the thing, folks. It happens sometimes, but very rarely. When you are such an underdog and you go and you win a game, and then you got to turn around and do it again versus a team that could be better than the team that you just beat, even though the team you just beat was the 1 seed. I thought JMU was the best team in this league all year. I thought App State just had their number. We talked about it, right, Kevin? Styles make fights. This is a fight that I think that JMU is going to be able to take. Remember, they won by 4 at Arkansas State earlier in the year. I love this JMU team, not because of what they did in the beginning of the year, but what they've done all year. Give me the Dukes, minus 5.5.
Love the breakdown, JY. I will let people know there is some more breaking NFL news that's come out. The Carolina Panthers are finally trading Brian Burns to the New York Giants. Burns is going to get a big-time deal from the New York Giants there. We will talk with Joe Lisi in about a half hour's time right here on this show and get his thoughts on some of the big news today, including the New York Giants, who he believes should actually get in the quarterback market. We will talk about that when the time comes with Joe. JY, let me ask you this. The college basketball situation really is going to be ramping up starting tomorrow. This week, a lot of the major conferences are getting underway. And I wanted to bring this up to you. As far as the favorites go, maybe they all win them, right? But if we take a look right now, Purdue to win the Big Ten is plus 100. Using the FanDuel Sportsbook odds, of course, these can vary from book to book. UConn to win the Big East, minus 150. To win the Big 12, Houston, plus 100. And then to win the Pac-12, we've got Arizona at minus 150. And I'll throw in Tennessee to win the SEC at plus 175. JY, is there a top dog in their conference tournament that you feel great about winning and you're willing to pay a short price on?
No. I mean, listen. I don't believe in Arizona as much as people do. I think they're a different team outside of the McHale Center. I have my concerns. Purdue, I really think that Illinois can pick them off. And they were playing with fire with Wisconsin. Playing with fire. You need a big, and they showed if the referees let teams be physical with Edey, you can move them off the block. As dominant as UConn has been, and they've been dominant in the Big East. Kevin? If Kolick is healthy, they can beat him. Creighton's beat him. You may think I'm crazy. I think the winner of Seton Hall and St. John's could give them fits in the semis. So there's that. Tennessee, no way in hell they win the SEC. I think Kentucky's the most dangerous team in the country, and I think they're going to win it. The safest bet is a team in the hardest league, and that's Houston. And that's why it's so hard, because Houston's the best team in the Big 12, but you can rattle off Iowa State can beat them, right? I know Kansas with the injuries, but they beat them once already. They can get hot. TCU's a team that can do it. Baylor can do it. I mean, they're the safest bet for me, and I can't even tell you to run to the window and take them, because I think there's good. Madness will start tomorrow, and then literally Kevin will go all the way through to the NCAA final. I know we have 2 teams that are better than everyone else. I get it. I just think it's going to be sheer mayhem in this tournament.
So I will say, first of all, we're going to do a lot of these tomorrow, especially with myself off Wednesday, and some of these things tip, Wednesday early anyway, right? So it would be live regardless. We're going to do a lot of these tomorrow. First of all, what that means from what JY just said, there's a lot of big numbers out there that are going to be interesting. I'll throw you guys one that I saw last night. I believe Texas A&M is like 101 to win the SEC tournament. There's going to be value out there, hedge opportunities. The favorite coach that I'm most interested in is UConn. Just tell me if this lands for you at all. They didn't win it last year, and Hurley takes everything so personal that I feel he's going to take the fact that they did lose that game last year in the final so personal. Because I do think they're much better than the rest of the conference. I do believe that UConn at the moment, from a narrative, from a talent, is the team I'm most interested in. Because I think it matters to UConn the most. Houston's a 1, Purdue's a 1, UConn's a 1. But I think it matters to UConn the most to win their conference tournament.
It does, because Hurley does want to win it. And he said it clear as day before the season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say something to people. Kevin, I'm going there. Oh, boy, here we go.
Oh, no. What are you about to do?
Villanova 20-1.
Oh,
Hear me out.
This guy's
Hear me out. They're going to beat DePaul. If no Kolick, they're going to beat Marquette. If they get by Creighton, I'm cashing out. I'll take them at 20-1. Hopefully they get to the finals and then cash out right as soon as they get there. There's ways you can do this. And remember, folks, Villanova played Marquette tough. They did beat Creighton at Creighton in that wild game over the weekend. 20-1, cash out, just saying.
I will agree. There's head. It's just you and Nova. Man, if they're in the NIT, you better be betting every single game they play. We're doing the NBA with Coach next. We'll be right back.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. We're live right here on a Monday night. I'm Kevin Walsh with you. Coach James Young is here. I'm on San Francisco. We just talked about that. JY is rolling with Gonzaga. I've got 3 other college basketball sides. We'll hit those at the top of the hour. There's a few NBA sides catching my eye tonight. JY, you're going to go to first half side on tonight's board. What are you looking for here in this Portland-Boston game late night on NBA TV?
You know what, Kevin? I this morning, I think it was like 9.5. I love the Celtics. And then it just started running. So I can't tell our viewing audience to take 9.5 when I got it earlier. I'm going to go to first half. I'm going to take the Celtics minus 6.5. Why, folks? The Celtics are 44-18-1 against the spread in the first half this year, best in the record in the NBA. You're going against the 6th worst team in Portland. Boston has ways that they try to jump you early. I am scared of the backdoor cover, so I just figure Missoula plays his guys. They play a ton early. They blow them out early. Celtics first half minus 6.5 or 7. Shop around.
Yeah, there was a lot of questionable tags for Boston early. I think that's why that number was so short. Probably means some of these guys are going to be confirmed in a game that it was too tough to read with, again, a lot of the uncertainty that was heading into that game. We are getting Devin Booker back tonight, by the way, JY. I'm actually on a 6.5 number with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The number has pretty much stayed consistent. I don't know how effective we'll see. I don't know how effective we're going to see Devin be tonight. I also just think Phoenix, in general, is a team I worry about laying a road number with. Again, I'm on the Cavs. I know they're depleted. I know it's the second leg of a back-to-back. But I'm just curious how you feel about Phoenix now, because we were wondering how long Devin could miss. He missed 4 games. They went 2-2 in those games with wins over Denver and Toronto. How do you feel about Phoenix knowing that Devin is back tonight?
They should win. They should cover. But they're so flaky. And listen, here's the thing, right? A reason why I think you're smart to take Cleveland plus the points, I don't care they're on a back-to-back. Folks, they lost by 20 to Brooklyn last night. Like, they lost by 20 at home to Brooklyn. Like, you want to talk about a team that should be in a really bad mood? Kevin, I honestly think, as crazy as this sounds, as much as I like Cleveland, I think I like the under more at 220.5 because you're going to get a defensive effort after knowing that's how they played last game. And they're going to keep this game close to the vest. If you looked at what they've done, right, as of late, right, 221 versus the Nets, that's an outlier, right? They went against Minnesota, 217. They went against Atlanta, 213. Boston, 209. Knicks, 205. Get where I'm going here, folks? They're gonna rely on their defensive end of missing all these guys. Kevin, I think I like under 220.5 in that game tonight.
All right, I don't mind an underplay there, JY. We'll see how Phoenix can continue to compete in this loaded Western Conference. And I'll make this quick point. I know we got a couple other games to get to. We'll get to them. The Lakers last night beat Minnesota. No Rudy Gobert. It was a close game for a while. Lakers pulled away. AD with one of the best stat lines of the season, 27, 25, 7, 5, 3. Just ridiculous numbers. I saw this, JY, and I admittedly didn't fact check it, but I trust where I saw it. The Lakers are 6 games over 500 for the first time since they traded for Russell Westbrook. That is, it kind of lends itself to Russ slander. That's not the point. The fact that the Lakers then are basically playing their best ball since, that year prior to Russ, I think they were the 7, and it was because of how much injuries in the year prior to that they won the title. And they're the 9 seed right now. And, some of that you could say, it's the Western Conference. Lakers would be the 9 seed in the East right now. I think we have a situation where a lot of teams have beaten up on the awful teams. We have some horrendous teams in the league. Detroit, Charlotte, San Antonio, Washington. We have a lot of awful teams in this league. The Lakers are playing so much better basketball. It's just, it doesn't matter if they're the 9, I feel. I don't know where you land on the Lakers right now, but they have to get out of this play-in situation. Like, I would have a lot more confidence in the Dallas getting from the 9 into the playoffs. than I would the LA Lakers. Maybe that's wrong of me. Maybe I'm not giving LeBron enough credit. I am the most unbiased man in the history of sports media, so that shouldn't surprise people. But I don't trust this Lakers team battling from the 9, and then all of a sudden we're breaking down Lakers second round odds. I don't see that.
Yeah, Kevin, my whole thing with the Lakers is I think they need to get to 8. I mean, I would love for them to get to 6, Kevin. I admit it. And they're only, they're 3 games out of the loss cup. I say get to 8. Because to me, you're going to get if the Lakers are 9, you're going to get a legendary LeBron performance. You're probably going to get the best of AD. The problem is there's times AD just doesn't put together back-to-back games. And I don't want to play with that, Kevin. I'd rather, if LeBron is 7-8, I don't care who it is. Sacramento, Golden State, Phoenix. Yeah. He's going to find a way to win it. He will find a way to win it because he doesn't want to go into that scenario where it's, the loser of that game versus the 9-10 winner. But to me, asking LeBron to do a Herculean effort 2 times in a row with a sometimes shaky supporting cast, I don't buy it. If they get to 7 or 8, they're going to make it. So it's key for them with the fact that their schedule, if you look at it, it is still pretty, it's easier, right? It's not as easy as Dallas's, right? But if you look at everybody else out of them, Phoenix, way harder schedule. Sacramento, way harder schedule. New Orleans, way harder schedule. So they should find a way, folks, to get to 7 or 8 with an outside chance, Kevin, which they can get to 6 if they keep this run going.
Yeah, look, getting to 6 is huge because Minnesota, Clippers, it looks like OKC and Denver will secure the 1 and the 2. It looks like that. Again, we'll see how it goes. Minnesota, because of the cat injury, is going to be the target team. The Lakers will play the Clippers. We'll see. We'll see who's there. We'll see who's there for the Clippers when they're playing. And then we'll break it down then. I know a lot of people think the Clippers own the Lakers. The Clippers own nothing. Let's make that very clear. The Clippers own nothing, okay? When they have a modicum of the success the Lakers have had since LeBron showed up, we'll talk. Until then, keep betting them. Plus 200 to win the West, bozos. Jay, I know that somehow includes you, but I mean it respectfully. Talk to me on this Hornets-Pistons game. I got angry about the Clippers. You know this. You know I get angry about the Clippers stuff. You're kind of, but here, let's be honest, JY. You're going to abandon ship on that team. You're going to abandon ship on that team.
Kevin,
you are.
Kevin, right now, I get cash out of them winning the title right now at plus money. I ain't going to lie. I thought about it. I've thought about it. I'm also sitting on Phoenix. That's not plus money. So that ain't
Certainly
going anywhere. Real
Certainly
quick,
not.
On this game tonight, right, between Charlotte and Detroit, I know that Charlotte went under 4 straight games. I get it. But you have guys in this game that can score the basketball against suspect defenses. Kevin, when you got 2 bad teams playing, I don't see a lot of defense coming in this game. I know I'm maybe crazy, but I feel like 217 is such a low number. I think this game can get to 230. Give me over 217 in Hornets Pistons tonight.
And then, Jay, a little Keldon Johnson sizzle play out of you?
What do you like yeah. For shizzle, my nizzle. Keldon Johnson, folks, over 6.5 rebounds plus assists in my low-hanging fruit of the night. Why, folks? Keldon Johnson has gone under 9 out of 15 games. But, folks, he's gone over 4 of the last 6. So I think there's something there. You look at the fact that the last 2 games versus Golden State, 16, 12, 2 nights ago. He repeats the process. Keldon, all aboard the Keldon Johnson train. Even though it's probably me by myself, I'll gladly take that. Keldon Johnson, over 6.5 rebounds plus assists tonight.
And then you have a Kyrie Irving play. I like the over in the game between the Mavericks and the Bulls. So hopefully this can be a situation where we're helping out one another here. What do you think about Kyrie in the matchup with Chicago?
Well, I think the fact there is that, by the way, there's a boost on DK. I think it's like triple-double for Lucas plus 225. Kevin, I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. You're right. And I think that Kyrie is going to get loose. Kyrie has gone over 9 of the last 15 games, and I'm going the opposite with Kyrie, right? Kyrie's go under his PRA in 5 out of his last 6 games. But I think this is a matchup, if he's going to be guarded by Kobe White, that he should be able to take advantage of. He will get, and I think because Luka goes off, he'll get assists to Luka, and he gets just enough rebounds to get me over the hump. Kyrie over 33.5 PRA tonight.
By the way, something that we very rarely talk about, but Kobe White has all of a sudden found himself in the mix with Tyrese Maxey for most improved player.
Sure.
Maxey minus 190. Kobe White is plus 170.
Shingun.
I don't know. Is it the Maxey injuries and people are worried about the games? I don't. I just feel. What do you think it is, JY, that has Kobe White so in the mix here?
I think there's concern. This is a concussion. It's legitimate, right? And then the fact that Shingun has been taken off the board because of his injury, even though he escaped major injury, because Shingun, who I think was third in there, he gets taken out. Tyrese Maxey's got injuries, so he drops down. It's natural that Kobe White comes up because he's going to be the one that's the recipient, and he's benefited so much this year, particularly since Zach. I mean, he's been good all year, but since Zach LaVine's been out, he's been really, really good. I would dare to say that would be a pretty good bet to look at. Is for Kobe White to win most improved player plus 170. Unfortunately, because of the Shingun news, you probably missed your value in it. But I do think there's a chance that he does take the title home. Is some of this idea, Maxey's missed 9 games. How many do you have to, wait a minute, 17 games? 17. 17 is the max. You can only miss 7, so you can, so right. Could Maxey miss 9 more games? Is that possible for Maxey to miss 9 more? They've played 64 games, so they've got 18 left. If Maxey misses half of their remaining games, the award is just going to, by default, go to Kobe White? It probably will, but if you really think about it, folks, Kobe White's been pretty good all year. And I thought, to be honest, he's been kind of undervalued for this award. You know, a Kobe White right now that's getting you 19.7 points per game, 5.3 assists. Last 10 games averaging 21.5, 5, and 5. So his numbers have gotten better as the year has gone on. So he's had an uptick. And then obviously he scored 20-plus in 4 of the last 5 games. 1 game he didn't, got to 19, including a 37-point game at Sacramento. He's trending the right way, Kevin. He really is. He is. You know, most improved is always such an interesting thing, right? Like, Kobe White, you know, he's a little bit more efficient this year. What's the difference? He's playing 13 more minutes a game. He's got a bigger workload, right? You know, for Maxey, it's a similar situation. Maxey's wildly less efficient this year, but he's obviously Maxey made an all-star team. Very interesting stuff. JY, a pleasure as always. I wish you the best of luck on every pick outside of Gonzaga. Go, Zags, go. They win by 15-plus. You heard it first. Oh, my God. You heard it first. JY, first person all day to break the games down. My man, we'll do a little NHL on the other side. What a knucklehead, man. You heard it first, he says.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses. I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right? Right. And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Breaking NFL news, the Washington Commanders have signed Austin Eckler. What is that about? I don't mind it, actually. I don't mind that at all. If you are, because I actually liked Austin Eckler to go to the New England Patriots. I thought that would have been a really nice move for whomever they drafted 3. So the same logic would apply for whoever the Commanders are set to draft at 2. Okay, yeah. Today, Antonio Gibson actually went to New England. So cheaper situation. I guess it all makes sense. Not bad. I just want to hit the NHL quickly. At the top of the hour, I'm going to go through the college and NBA picks that I'm on tonight. But I do have a pick on the NHL, which is in this Rangers-Devils game. Give me Mika Zibanejad over half an assist at plus 116. 7 consecutive games without an assist, 6 straight without a point overall. So I don't hate a 2+ points play either on Mika. Talking to some people, they could see him scoring in this game. So again, 6 straight without a point. He could pop off as a home favorite tonight against the Devils. But his prior season-long stretch without an assist was 4. Rarely does he ever go 3 games without. And it's not like his time on the ice has significantly dropped. It's just a situation he's not been fortunate enough to be involved. Well, I think that changes tonight. I think we can swoop in and cash and take it. 21 assists in 30 home games. I think it's worth a shot here on Mika Zibanejad. The Rangers booked as a minus 130, minus 140 favorite on the home ice against the Devils. The Boston Bruins host the Blues at minus 240. That total 5.5. Same total for Winnipeg and Washington. The Jets at home in a bounce back spot after their loss to the Canucks are over minus 200. And then late night in LA, the Kings are minus 150 against the New York Islanders, and another total at 5.5. Coming up here in this second hour, again, I'll go through the card in a minute. We're going to have Joe Lisi help us break down the latest NFL news, including an interesting idea for the New York Giants, and Dave Sharapan will be here to react to some of the latest odds movement that we've seen with the NFL news, as well as from the college basketball results this weekend. Sharapan and I talked a lot about North Carolina last week, and they were one of the big gainers with their win over Duke and some help that they got as well. The college basketball board is also live right now, so we'll get to that back in less than a minute on Game Time Decisions. Welcome back in. It's Game Time Decisions, live with you right here on a Monday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. We are on SportsGrid. The college basketball slate is underway. Charleston up on Townsend, just by one, though, at half. Lamar up a decent amount on New Orleans in the second round of the Southland tournament. At 7 o'clock, we're going to have a few games starting here. The important ones for me and anybody involved with the conference tournament futures that I've been playing. James Madison can cash our plus 135 against Arkansas State. Certainly no hedging going on with a number like that. You bet that to win. And then Oakland's plus 300 tonight. Need to take down Cleveland State. They have dropped to anywhere between minus 110 and plus 110 on books to win this tournament. They're the best team remaining. Cleveland State clearly getting a lot of love in the market at 3.5. Going to continue to certainly let this go. Oakland will play the winner of a game between Northern Kentucky and Milwaukee. And let's start right there because I'm involved with that game, and I'm on the Norse on their money line at minus 114. I'm not that impressed by Milwaukee. I know a lot of people are interested in them heading into this tournament. I get it. But beating Detroit, who is 1-30 at the time, doesn't move me. Beating Green Bay, who a lot of folks were looking to fade, it doesn't move me. This is still a bottom 50 defense in college basketball. And Northern Kentucky is hot. Look, I get Milwaukee's playing good basketball, but so are the Norse. 7-2 straight up in their last 9 games with a cover in both of those losses. So I like them to continue their string of play here and beat Milwaukee. I like Nichols. We mentioned the Southland game between Lamar and New Orleans. I like Nichols to beat Texas A&M Commerce and cover the 5.5. Texas A&M Commerce is just 9-12 against the number as a dog this season. If you look, when they play the top teams in this conference, they are routinely smashed. And that is exactly the description that you can reply or provide to Nichols as our radio audience joins us here on a Monday night. Kevin Walsh with you, Sirius XM, channel 159. We're live and on the go with Game Time Decisions. But A&M Commerce against the top 4 teams in this conference, 0-8 straight up, 2-6 against the number, average margin of defeat, 14.5 points. Nichols, all 5 of their conference losses came to those teams, 7 consecutive wins against any team that is not inside that top 4, and all of those have been by 6 or more points. So we're going to lay the 5.5. We're going to take the 7.5 with Montana State. Weber, who is set up now to win this due to some of the movement here. We've got the Portland State future we're rooting on, but Weber State is 7-10 against the number as a favorite. Montana State 11-7 against the number as a dog. This Montana State team still has a defense inside the top 200 in college basketball, so they can hang defensively in this game. And if we look, again, they're just playing very, very well. They beat Weber State in the regular season finale. The game before that, they played Eastern Washington, who was the 1 seed in this tournament. They lost by 4 at Eastern Washington. They beat Northern Colorado at home. Okay, they only lost to that team by 3 when they played them on the road. So this is a team that has been able to hang all season long with the best in this conference, and I think that's what happens here tonight on that 7.5 line. My favorite college basketball bet is San Francisco. We talked about with JY. We're taking the 9 points in their matchup with the Zags. As far as the NBA goes, I want to start here with a little Davis Maddock, SGP. He's going to the Mavs-Bulls game. I'm playing this game as well. Here's what Davis likes in the game between Dallas and Chicago.
All right, guys, we are back for another same game parlay over on the FanDuel Sportsbook, continuing with the NBA action before the beginning of March Madness. We are going to be taking the Dallas Mavericks at the Chicago Bulls, minus 4 points. The Mavericks are playing pretty much a playoff rotation right now. Every game super important to them. I'm not really buying this resurgent Chicago Bulls. I think they are pretty destined to be a play-in team, and they just don't have anyone on the perimeter capable of handling Luka, their best perimeter defensive players. Caruso, just not going to be big enough to get in Luka's way. We are also going to take Luka to score 30 or more points in this game, and Luka Doncic to record 10 or more assists in this game. You could even tack on 10 or more rebounds. Luka has 5 straight triple-doubles, 5 straight games with 35 or more points. You can make it as spicy as you want, but Mavs minus 4, Luka to score 30 or more points, and Luka to record 10 or more assists is plus 240 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So that is our 3-leg same-game parlay we are riding with. Good luck tonight, everybody.
A little SGP action there from Davis. If you want to add a fourth leg, let's get the over at 232 in this game. Dallas 10-6 to the over when booked as a road favorite. The Bulls 9-5 to the over when booked as a home dog. So both teams play overs in this position here at better than 60%. Like what I'm seeing for the Mavericks in their past few games here. I think that offense continues to tick. And Chicago hangs, man. Chicago hangs with some of these top teams back at home. I expect more of the same. We're playing over the 232. Playing the 6.5 with the Cavs tonight. Look, I get it. Devin Booker's back. These teams both recently hosted the Celtics, right? And there was just 3 points of separation. Now, I understand we have home court advantage, but then reasonably bring this game to pick. So a back-to-back and Devin Booker get this up to 6.5? I don't agree. I think it's too much. I think you get a motivated Cavs team tonight, a focused Cavs team tonight on this 6.5-point line here. And I think they hang with the Phoenix Suns. And I'm going to grab the Raptors plus the 16. This is a lot of points in a hard-to-get-up-for spot, in my opinion, with Denver. They beat the Celtics. They avoid the sleepy spot against Utah. Smash that team. Tonight they play the Raptors laying 16. Their next game is in South Beach against Miami. This is just a whole mess of... I don't know how Denver cares about this game enough to win it by 25. Because, by the way, this team's going to have to be up, 30 for you to turn the TV off on a 16-point number? They're up 25 going into the fourth. I'm watching. Raptors could steal a fourth quarter by 9. It'd be a lot, but I'm watching. We're dialed on it. We got eyeballs in the situation. I think the Raptors hang here. I think they cover the 16 against Denver. The rest of the NBA slate tonight, JY mentioned the game between Charlotte and Detroit. Likes the over in that game, which is coming up now from 217 to 217.5. The Pistons are a 5-point favorite. That one gets going in a few minutes here. Santa Ana and Golden State will do it again. Wemby back. Steph not. Warriors 5-point favorites on the road. This total checks in at 226.5. And then the late night game there is Portland and Boston. The Celtics, a 12-point favorite against the Blazers. That total there is 220. The Boston domination train could very well be back on. If I'm playing, I'm laying, but I'm not involved with that game here tonight. The NBA Tuesday slate, at first glance, looks pretty exciting. I'm excited to get involved with that, but I'm excited to spin it back towards the NFL, which Joe Lisi is going to help us do, because there was a lot of big action for us to get involved with. So let me just run back this card quickly for the people here. Cavs, plus 6.5. Bulls, Mavs, over 232. Raptors, plus the 16 in the NBA. Give me on the college basketball board. The Dons, plus 9. San Francisco against Gonzaga. Nichols, minus 5.5 in the Southland. We're going to lay that number against Texas A&M Commerce. Northern Kentucky on the money line. And then Montana State, plus 7.5. Up next, we talk big breaking news with Joe Lisi. Is Kirk Cousins the answer in Atlanta? And what is next for Justin Fields? We try to answer those questions next, right here on SportsGrid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
4.22. The fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. It's that time once again. It's Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi in the mix. Hard to get a hold of this. I can't even keep it. Joe, I miss you. How's it going, man? How's it going?
I'm doing well. We almost broke bread on Saturday night. What better way, right?
True.
I mean, it's just like two ships missing in the middle of the night. Unbelievable.
Yeah, we were out in the wild, man. It was a nice time. It was great to see it. Look, there's a lot for us to get to. I'll start this way, and we'll work our way forward. Kirk Cousins is the Atlanta Falcons quarterback. They moved to minus money to win the South. And I heard from someone today they are going to, quote, run away with that division. Do you have the same optimism from hearing this Kirk Cousins news?
No, absolutely not, Kev. I think it's an upgrade, obviously, from the quarterback position that they had last year in regards to Des Ridder and Taylor Heineke. And maybe they might do good in terms of the regular season because that's all Kirk Cousins is a compiler. But when push comes to shove, he only has one marquee playoff win under his belt 5 years ago against Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Other than that, they failed to live up to expectations. So, yeah, they might be the front runners to potentially win the division, but asking or expecting Kirk Cousins in Atlanta to push for a potential NFC championship, I just don't see it. And if I had to rank the teams in order of the South right now, I would put Tampa Bay over Atlanta. The fact that Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans have come back to that offense and they won the division last year, I have more confidence in Todd Bowles and Tampa Bay than I do with new head coach Raheem Morris and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it is, it's interesting. We are going to, for me, Joe, the schedule matters, right? There's a lot more that has to happen this offseason. But if you basically gave me the field, because now that they're minus money, that's what I'd be getting the field at minus 110, right? Plus 100. I'd gladly take the field. I think New Orleans could surprise people, right? We spent an offseason with everybody loving him. Now everybody hates him. Swoop back in, right? And again, I think Tampa is always underrated. But here's the thing. This move puts Justin Fields in a weird spot. He was over minus 400 at books to become the Atlanta Falcons quarterback. And Pittsburgh and Vegas were teams we were hearing would be interested in Justin Fields. Pittsburgh went with Russell Wilson, and clearly the Raiders, I think, are going to have the Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew competition, and that's what all the reports suggest. So, Joe, Justin Fields, a quarterback you're very high on, where could you see him landing?
What if he just stays pat in Chicago? We saw them sign DeAndre Swift. Is potentially Chicago going to be, or pull a fast one on everybody and trade out of the first overall pick to give up Caleb Williams? That's always the potential, Kev. I always think, and has said all off season, that if Chicago has any sights set on a playoff type of setting or run this year, they do it with Justin Fields. They put some other playmakers around, DJ Moore. They signed DeAndre Swift. Maybe they add another veteran wide receiver. They trade out of the number 1 overall selection, get more wide receiver help, maybe Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and now all of a sudden you have a unique offense with the versatility of Justin Fields, just suggesting that potentially they move on from him. I don't know. We'll see what they do over the next few weeks, but I'm not so sure at this point.
You see, the thing is, you don't like Caleb. See, that's why it's so easy for you to talk about. Relatively, yeah. Joe. Relatively, you don't like Caleb. There's a lot of people that think he's generational. You wouldn't take him first overall.
Right.
I'm not. It's not even a slander thing.
Right.
So that's why for you, moving off that pick is easier. Can I ask you this? Is there any world Chicago keeps Fields, drafts Caleb, and just lets it play out? Is there any world they do that? I think it would be toxic. I do. I think Fields would be miserable.
Yeah, he would be, and they wouldn't be doing right by him, especially since they didn't draft any wide receiver help. So you're going to draft Caleb Williams 1 overall, and then what are you going to do? You're going to put playmakers around Caleb or give him the opportunity to develop when they never did that with Justin Fields in 3 years under center? That would be a toxic situation. But you never know. I mean, right now, they're in a position of strength. They have their starting quarterback from last year. They have the number 1 overall selection. Now they have to make a decision. What do they do to capitalize? And I said this, Kev. Okay, they draft Caleb Williams, right? And they move on from Justin Fields. Do we really expect this team to make a playoff run with a first-year quarterback, number 1? And is Matt Eberflus the coach to do that? I mean, you're going to draft Caleb Williams. Do you expect Matt Eberflus and the offensive staff that couldn't do it last year with their coordinator Getsy to coach up Caleb Williams and just evolve offensively, especially now that they just signed DeAndre Swift? They were 60% of a run offense last year and wanted to win games 17-13 as opposed to, outscoring opponents. So I just don't see that. I think if they want to win now, they win with Justin Fields and put playmakers around them, trade out of the number 1 overall selection. I'll just say this, a team that potentially could be in the mix, don't count out the New York Giants. If they were in the market for Russ Wilson, why wouldn't they be in the market for Justin Fields?
So I think now, and this Giants thing I've been alluding to, the Brian Burns deal, Joe, has to get them out of that market, right? Russ went for free. Burns is a big contract. It doesn't seem financially feasible anymore for the Giants. I think it'd be a good enough spot for Fields to give it a spin with Brian Dable. I don't know if dollars can make sense there, And if you're Justin Fields, if you're Fields, and maybe the answer is the Giants, is that where you would want to land? Would you want to be a New York Giant?
Why not? I mean, think about this. I mean, Brian Dable elevated Josh Allen's career until an MVP candidate, right? The versatility, the mobility of the RPO game, right? They try to do that with Daniel Jones in the early part of his career, but he's got 2 neck injuries. Everybody's talking about the ACL. I'd be more concerned about the neck injury, especially as it relates to the RPO game. With Justin Fields, if you catch lightning in a bottle now you have the face of the franchise for the next 4 to 7 seasons. So why not roll the dice? If you were in the market for Russ Wilson, why wouldn't you be in the market for Justin Fields? And I understand it has to make dollars and cents, and they're in the market for Burns. I got that. But I would want Justin Fields. Same thing with the Steelers. If you're taking Russ Wilson as a stopgap, what is the really end result of that? I just don't understand that mindset.
I think, and again, this is where, and look, obviously, I'd rather have Justin Fields in my building under any circumstance, except for then when you go, well, one of them costs $1 million. Willingness to bring in Russ is he cost the Steelers $1 million.
Right.
1.2. This 5th-year option, right? Apparently, they got to decide if it's picked up by May, right? And that's $25 million. Is any team trading for Justin Fields without picking up that option? I don't know.
I mean,
and that's what makes it difficult.
Yes, it does. But knowing how, when you catch a lightning in a bottle and you have an athletic talent that you could coach up, if anybody could coach it up, it's Brian Dable. And he's got to see similarities between him and Josh Allen in terms of that game. So you're telling me, if you're asking me, is Justin Fields a significant upgrade from Daniel Jones? I believe it is. I believe they are. I think Justin Fields would elevate that offense with those playmakers, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, whoever you sprinkle around them. I don't care that they're losing Saquon Barkley. So for me, I would take a shot. I think he's that much of a talent to take a shot on him to potentially pick up that fifth-year option.
Yeah, I'm just kind of, this is now a situation where I think some teams, I'll throw a team at you and you would be happy about this, I think. If I'm the Rams, I need to ask Stafford, hey, how many years do you have left? Because if Stafford's like, oh, this is my last one, then maybe you make that move because then you have a succession plan in place. But, the reality is, unless the Vikings, I don't know if there's a starting job out there for him right now.
But why wouldn't the Vikings, if they have Jaron Hall and they tried with Kellen Mond, it's a good fit.
Lisi's sticking around. We'll keep breaking it down right here on Game Time Decisions.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. We're live here with Joe Lisi talking about today's big news in the NFL. There's a lot for us to get to, but of course the Justin Fields conversation is one that Joe and I had a lot during the season, have had during this offseason. So I want to just try and put a button on it before we move off of it. And I'll say the more you kind of read through the tea leaves, there does seem to be a legitimate idea that he might stay in Chicago. And I feel confident about this. That is a disaster waiting to happen, because I do not think Justin Fields and Caleb Williams, like people thought Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers was toxic. Brett Favre at that time was a Hall of Famer who felt, I shouldn't have to give up my spot to be here. Okay? That was tough. Justin Fields is being run out of town by that kid and may not find work again outside of Chicago. And Caleb is going to have no desire to sit behind Justin Fields because Caleb thinks, and everybody in the world mostly thinks, he's much better than Justin Fields. I don't know where Fields ends up at the moment. It feels a bit mystifying, but him staying in Chicago and then them drafting Caleb Williams, Joe, Matt Eberflus can hand those walking papers in right away. That's not going to be a winning situation.
No, I don't see that. I mean, I think if Justin Fields stays, they trade out of the number one selection and look to build depth from an offensive perspective. Get, two wide receivers, Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, to go with DJ Moore. And then now you're cooking with fire. See if he can outscore teams and see if Fields evolves into the franchise quarterback. That would be my best bet. If I knew that I had to win immediately, I am not drafting Caleb Williams. I would take my shot with Fields, who's battle-tested, has won some games with less talent, and albeit a little erratic, but no playmakers around him, and then just sprinkle all the offensive weapons around him, and let's see what you have. Because if you draft Caleb Williams, the team goes 4-13, Eberflus is not going to be there, and then you're going to have the same situation that you have with Fields, right? I mean, new coach, new offensive staff. What are you going to do then?
Well, that was the decision to bring back Eberflus while drafting a quarterback was always a worrisome one. And that situation remains. Let's talk running backs. A lot of running backs deals happened today. Swift to Chicago, Tony Pollard to Tennessee. The two big ones are Saquon to the Philadelphia Eagles and Josh Jacobs to the Green Bay Packers. Of those four, and now Austin Eckler is now with the Washington Commanders. So of those 5 running back situations, Joe, which one is most interesting to you?
Well, there's 2. It's Swift to the Bears, because I believe Swift showed something last year that he could be the bell cow, and he looked like the running back coming out of Athens. 1,000-yard rusher, was utilized in terms of the screen game, could break it. We saw multiple big runs for Philadelphia last year, and he carried that team when they were a 10-1 overall record at the start of the year. So I like that move for Chicago, especially knowing how Eberflus still wants to run the football. The other one that I find intriguing, Kev, is Tony Pollard to the Titans, because they have Tajay Spears there. So why would they get a similar type of running back after giving up the workhorse, right, Derrick Henry, and you have Tony Pollard, another finesse back that can't pound it between the tackles? What does that mean in terms of the elevation or progression for Will Levis? They're going to be more of a now finesse type of offense. I don't know if that bodes well for Tennessee.
I think I saw that Tony Pollard was graded out very well from the final 5-6 games of the season. Tony Pollard is someone that is very difficult to watch. Pollard not find the end zone as often as he did with the season-long touchdown bet, and that's going to stick with me for a bit. For me, it's not even about the player. It's about moving off of Henry and paying a running back any amount of money, with Tajay Spears looking as good as he did. I don't understand it at all. And I think it speaks volumes as to why A.J. Brown plays football right now with the Eagles and why Mike Vrabel's in a head coach. Poorly ran organization. That's what kind of jumps off of the page. I'll ask you about this, though. Josh Jacobs goes to Green Bay.
Yep.
Packers were a team for you last year before a lot of people, right? I mean, man, we were marching close to you having that team in the Super Bowl, right?
Close.
And they beat the Niners, man. They could have, very well took out the Detroit Lions. We know they could have. And then, and it's anybody's game. They beat Kansas City this year. But, it was a tough run, and they weren't able to close it out. But here's the story. There's a lot of hype around this team now, Joe. And hype, maybe it's because I hang out with you a lot, but hype sometimes is difficult for you and I. Because hype turns us off. What's Falcons thing? I'll tell you this right now. If Lacey and I end up picking the Falcons to win that division come August, something went wrong. The Packers are going to have a lot of hype, and bringing in a big-name running back like Josh Jacobs is going to add to that. How do you feel about the Packers as we sit here early March?
Well, I still like them. It's a different type of running back. Josh Jacobs a bigger back than Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones was one of the reasons why the Green Bay Packers went on a late game heater at the end of the regular season. The last 5 games of the regular season and playoffs, he averaged around 115 rushing yards per game, right? So he was the catalyst. He's a versatile running back. He can catch the edge. Josh Jacobs, a bigger back. Yeah, he's explosive, but you lose that edge in terms of the toss sweep, I think, with Josh Jacobs. It's more of a ground and pound, blue collar type of attack between the tackles. That's what they want to build. But again, still a good addition. Maybe they just feel Josh Jacobs younger. You could get a little more out of him. But that offensive line really showed signs of continuity at the end of the regular season. I don't think it hurts them one bit. But Aaron Jones' ability to catch the football, I think, could be missed as well.
All right, now let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins today requested a trade. I think this was a bit inevitable. They were never going to be able to pay Joe Burrow the most money of any quarterback in this league. Soon to pay Jamar Chase the most money any wide receiver outside of Justin Jefferson makes. And pay T. Higgins top 10 wide receiver. It doesn't make any sense. It's not happening. And they're going to get a lot back for T. Higgins. Unless you disagree. Unless you think they should find a way to pay Higgins. But I just don't know if that's possible. What do you think about T. Higgins' future? Is there a landing spot that might jump off the page for you?
What, T. Higgins, I think, could go to a number of teams. You can go to the Giants that need wide receiver help, big body, right? To go with whoever's the starting quarterback with New York. I also think Chicago is an option for T. Higgins, right? If you're going to have Caleb Williams, or you're going to keep your quarterback Justin Fields, you still need a complimentary wide receiver outside of DJ Moore. And the fact that he played in a cold weather environment, I think, Chicago's a nice option for T. Higgins. Here's the thing. You said it. They can't afford to pay him, and they play games with him, right? They tagged him. You knew he was going to be upset. You knew he was going to be disgruntled. So he was an intricate part of that offense and that run to the 2 AFC championship runs. You had to know that he was going to request a trade. So now you have to get rid of him. There's no in between. Either sign him, but you should have did that if you wanted to sign him 3 weeks ago. Why wait till this plays out? So he's gone. I think he's definitely gone. There's no way he stays in Cincinnati now.
I agree. I think Arizona is a team that a lot of people have talked about. If there's any world where that team could be interested, I think you want to get Kyler Weapons.
Ravens?
I'm curious. I don't think he would go inside the division. I think New England is interesting because you need to put weapons in that room. You can't – look, Tom left because there was no weapons. Part of the reason – Cam Newton and Mac Jones failed the way they did is there was no, Bill Belichick gave up on having a talented wide receiver room like 6-7 years ago, right? So that's a part of the issues there.
Carolina, Carolina's an option.
What about, the Jets? I mean, Rodgers moved money around. Here's the thing. That team, right, has Garrett Wilson and then all these other guys that it didn't really work out. Right? Eli Moore went to Cleveland. Lazard, Cobb, stop. Could the Jets swoop in and make another blockbuster move?
They can. I mean, it's possible. But again, does team want to go there? I mean, I also think he's going to have a little bit of say, right? I mean, what about Buffalo? I mean, they lose Gabe Davis. Stephon Diggs really hasn't stepped up. Buffalo, I'd much rather, if I'm T. Higgins, I'd much rather go to Buffalo than the New York Jets and play with Josh Allen right now. That's an option. Carolina, I think, is an option because he played at Clemson. The only problem is that's a complete rebuild with a new first-year head coach.
I mean, look, I think T. Higgins, it's interesting, right? Because I was going to say he's going to want to go where the money is, and he will, but this is a guy who, now has been, a little used to winning went to a Super Bowl. They went to a Super Bowl in Cincinnati, right? And they followed that up with an AFC championship appearance. So I know this year was bad, but a lot of that was injury. I want to just throw this in because we talked about the Field stuff, but, if the Gardner Minshew deal didn't happen, we'd all be sitting here saying Fields is going to go to Vegas. I don't understand what they're doing in Vegas. I don't get it at all. Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew is your quarterback position. Sounds like last place to me. I don't, you and Donnie, love this Gardner Minshew. Love this Gardner Minshew.
Guy's a winner.
So I don't know, you love this Raiders? He's a winner.
He's a winner. He almost led the Colts to a playoff appearance.
He had a home game to get to win the AFC South. And he lost it.
Come on. All right, he lost. Come on.
Winner?
It's not. Listen,
What did he
out of
do
all
in Monsoon?
out
Did I
of
miss
all
a
the
Pac-12
free
title
agent
game?
quarterbacks as backups or potential old man starters, give me Gardner Minshew over anybody. That guy's a riverboat gambler. I'll take him on my team any day of the week. If he wants to start for the Dolphins, I'll take him there throwing balls.
Bar.
Yeah, Waddle and
Reminds
Hill.
me of Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels a winner too. What'd he ever do? Nothing.
Number 1 pick in the draft. Watch. 30-1.
Yeah. I mean, off all those big games where he competed but couldn't close the door. No, it sounds about right. Josh Allen just moved some money around. Maybe Higgins ends up in Buffalo. I could see it. Wow, interesting. I won't be ever on that Bills team again. Joe, it was a pleasure. We'll do it again soon, huh?
Love the show. Can't wait.
My man, Dave Showerpan's up next here for Monday night on Game Time Decisions.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Making it happen, folks. I mean, it is game time decisions after all. It's Monday night. What does that mean? Consig is here. Dave Sharapan, Rangers hat. I don't know if that's a Rags jersey to go with it.
It
I haven't
is.
seen that one. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the old school Liberty. I got Mika Zibanejad for an assist tonight as my hockey play. How do you feel?
Look at you.
It's hockey, come on.
This is my favorite part of the day when I come on
coming.
Game Time Decisions
Yeah.
is the hockey prop that hockey guy Kevin Walsh comes with. K-Dub, I love this. Is it? I mean, it's scoreless. It's almost scoreless.
It's scoreless, so I don't have to. It is what it is. Man, Consig, there's a lot to get to.
Yes.
We were talking during the break. I was undecided if I wanted to bring it up. I figure we'll bring it up. We'll get it out of the way.
Sure.
The Temple basketball situation that kind of played out over the past few days was one that caught a lot of people's eye. My takeaway, maybe I'm being naive. Maybe I'm being unsensitive, unaware. It's possible. The one thing about it's a complicated situation, but people are like, see, this is why sports betting, too close to all these sports. I don't get that. I don't see why it would be the fault of the people involved. I don't follow why we would be blaming the DraftKings or Caesars or I don't see how that works. I don't know why that's the angle so many people are taking. I don't know what you've made of this all, Dave.
I mean, I don't know whether books are on the right side of fixes or wrong side of fixes. I don't know when it's happening, when it's not. I can say this for years in the room in Vegas. I don't think anybody knew it was going on until it was already going on. But maybe they're not.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going on, period. And I just think that there's got to be that, if there's people asking questions, a lot of times that expression where there's smoke, there's fire, there might be fire. So I think we've got to cautiously just wait and see what comes out of it. I joke with Kofsky. Every
Dave?
person that went to Temple is on notice right now. I mean, it's like when the Penn State situation happened, I couldn't wear the Penn State stuff. Like I was out in Vegas. And people wanted to say stuff, and it wasn't true. So
well, you've been in this business a long time. You've been in this business a long time. So tell me this. And it's an unfortunate thing, the idea of a game being fixed, right? Shaving points, whatever it might be. Way more prevalent before this was all legalized. Am I off base?
I mean, it's been prevalent since the beginning of time. They had the lions. Back in the Roman Colosseum, they had the lions. They fed them to the lions. I mean, the Lions were huge favorites. It's always been that way. So I don't know. There's too many questions. There's too many things at stake. Who's watching who? What was reported? The problem with it, with the legality of it now being so prevalent, is that there's politicians, there's tax money, there's official partners of all the leagues, of all the things. What happens? I mean, we're inundated with constant barrage of ads and constant barrage of emails to join this, and you can't open. Today it opened in North Carolina. Today's the launch of sports betting in North Carolina. I don't know if you've paid attention, but it's nonstop in my feed where, hey, come sign up. Well, there's been bookies and bettors in North Carolina since the beginning of time. So like to act like it's all new, that's the hard part for people that have been in this business a long time. And there's a lot of people down south, which is like what I like to call the offshore place, where I got my, I made my bones down there. I was in Curacao in the late 90s learning this business. I'm seeing a sequel. This is the way I described it on another show that I did. Everything that's happening right now this is part 2 for me, where it's part 1 for a lot of people. They think they're just walked into a new blockbuster. And I'm like, no, hold on. We gotta wait and see what's happening here.
Let me just say this, okay? Sometimes it is okay, and this applies to a lot of stuff, to see a story and then shut up.
Oh, right? It's the best. Yeah.
But let me. You can tell, I think, as I am asking questions and largely listening to what Dave is saying. And I work actually in this business, right? The I just don't the amount of people who think that the kids on Temple, if this is all played out, only know about sports betting because they run FanDuel commercials all day, don't know what they're talking about. You are being naive, either by choice or by circumstance. But you are being naive. And I am probably a bit defensive of sports betting because it is a big part of what I do and my livelihood and things of that nature. But it is, I saw a quote from sports betting flew too close to the sun. What are you talking about? I got a couple documentaries I could show you, okay? It's just, and that's my only thing.
Well, this is,
and we'll leave it at that.
The problem,
Go ahead.
The problem with it is this. It's the next move. All right. This is my life. I've done everything in the book with what's the next move. We take a bet. Okay. What's the next move?
Mm-hmm.
Something happens. Somebody signs with a team. What's the next move? The thing that I'm worried about is the next move is what's going to happen. What happened in Ohio, what happened in Maryland. There's no more college player props, period. They just make a leap and say it's done. So now, this is my life. I've been in this business for over 30 years. And if they say there's no more betting on college sports, guess what? There's no more betting on college sports legally, but they're driving it right back to the street. They're driving it right back to the Caribbean. They're driving it right back across the pond. And that's not right.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's not regulated, and then it gets worse. I just don't. But again, the politicians can figure that all out because I'm trying to figure out this JMU Arkansas State game, right? I mean, we're trying to finish out a Sun Belt future. You know,
JMU.
Sure. Can I ask you this?
You got JMU.
JMU.
Let's go, baby.
So I want to ask you this, Dave, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow. But these big conference tournaments are about to start. And I saw a number last night. I haven't bet it yet. I have to do, some more diving on a Texas A&M 100-1 to win the conference tournament. And, A&M's had themselves a heck of a year. It's obviously fallen off towards the back end, but they got some talent about them. My thing is, how do the books feel when it comes to, because you're posting huge numbers, right, that can pay out in a short amount of time. It's essentially the one time we get to, if you're a basketball bettor, you're a golf bettor out of nowhere. How about that? And this is what golf betting is, right? On a Thursday, you're 100-1 tees off, and on Saturday, he's sitting there at 6. You're like, whoa, all right, what do we do now? Yes. In the room, this is something, it's even more unique, admittedly, than what happens 2 weeks from now when we get to the real tournament, right? Or a week, whatever it is, 10 days.
Right, a week from Thursday.
Because it plays out over a longer period of time. I mean, you've got 4 or 5 day windows here, right? And these numbers are getting hit, right? Because these are the biggest teams in college basketball playing.
It's a quick hit. You have to get them up, and you have to get them out ASAP. Now, what you do is you give numbers guys and odds guys the map. Texas A&M has to win this game, this game, this game, and then this game. So all we do is figure out the money line parlay, add in the VIG, and put the numbers up. Now, even at 100-1, you may say that's a great price. It might, depending on how the numbers break out, or an injury occurs, or somebody whatever doesn't play. It might be higher. It might be lower. But putting these things up with the roadmap of, we know it's a neutral site, we know it's over 4 days, and we know the path they have to go through, it was easy. It's just, it's a limited market, and it's very top heavy. Okay, Dub. The SEC. It's Tennessee, or it's Kentucky, or it's who? The Big Ten. It's Purdue, it's Illinois, or it's who? Your assignment is to find the who's. That's what you got to do this week. You got to find if somebody it's not 1 or 2 wins it.
In the room, often, right? I guess I know everything can be situational. Are they rooting for or against the favorite in these conference tournaments? Or it usually balances out?
You're rooting for whoever you need You're not rooting for anybody. If somebody comes in and drops a bag on Kentucky, you're rooting for Tennessee. You know, you don't need to start a conference tournament week after, before the big dance. You don't need to start like blowing 28 dimes on, the Big East tournament. So you want to try to manage the risk. Listen, it's a favorite heavy market. I love when people like you come in and bet Texas A&M. Please do it, because we might need to pay you so we don't pay them other ones. That's great.
Right. It'll be interesting. I want to stick with this with the SEC. And I know it was an unfortunate situation that played out with the South Carolina LSU game. I know there's only one girl who's going to be suspended for the first round of the NCAA tournament. We would have had, and I know you these games are not bet on at an incredibly high level, Dave. But there was a moment on the broadcast. You saw what played out with LSU South Carolina, right? For anybody that didn't, there was a push into a shove, into a body, all of a sudden everybody's on the court, right?
The brother jumped the scoring table, K-Dub.
Yes, he did. It was one of those things where, thankfully, all he did was jump that table, right?
Right.
And that's, you know what I mean? But what happened is, right, the girl Camila Cardozo, who's probably the best player on South Carolina, is going to miss the round 1 game, right? Yep. But initially on the broadcast, they also said anybody that left the bench is going to also be suspended. So there was a moment where South Carolina was going to be without their best player and their entire bench. So we were looking at a 5-woman team, no subs. For those that, women's college hoops, South Carolina in a 1-16 is a what favorite? 45.5?
I was going to say
more.
40.
But it would have been a very interesting situation, maybe only to me because I'm weird, that's fine, of them booking a 40-point game where there's no bench. And here's the thing, they're putting up lines. Sometimes they're putting up lines for every single, I promise you, women's tournament game, especially the ones involving the 1 seeds.
There's more interest now than there ever has been, K-Dub. You're right. There's more interest now in the women's game. Thank Caitlin Clark. Thank people that watch college sports. And a couple other good teams. It used to be UConn and everybody else. I don't know how we would have made a number for that. I would have said, K-Dub, what do we do? I'd have turned to you and said, I don't know, 17? See what they do with it. I have no idea.
That's where, you've kind of always told me about this. We put a number out, put a limit on it, and see what they do. And if they bet South Carolina, we made a huge mistake. And we got to jump. Because that was not supposed to be what they did.
We're moving in fives, K-Dub. We're going right to 24.5. Get to 30, quick. We were wrong.
Oh, it closes. And then all of a sudden, what happens? It's a 10-point game, and the book takes home every number. Consig, we'll do it again tomorrow. Best bet on the way out. Amen.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. It's just that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Let's close it out here on SportsGrid with Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Up next will be In-Game Live. We'll have you covered all night long. A lot of good college hoops. People trying to punch some tickets. An upset brewing with Charleston and Townsend. And, I mean, Hofstra Pride all of a sudden got to handle their business against Stony Brook. And we'll see how it plays out. You know, hey, listen. Cart, horse, let's make sure we get the order of those correct. But things are looking good. Oakland's tied at the break. Against Cleveland State. We'll take that. Up 10. Uh-oh. Looking good. Let's stick with the college. Let's get San Francisco home to 9 against Gonzaga. I think it's some shops is moving up to 9.5. How dare you? Dons are live in this game. I really believe that. They went to Gonzaga, went to St. Mary's, kept both of those games within 5. We're now on a neutral court. You know, the Dons played Gonzaga about 10 days ago at home and caught 3.5. The removal of home court advantage does not all of a sudden get us to 9. Gonzaga's been playing great basketball, no doubt, okay? But I do think we are now overvaluing Gonzaga a touch. This is a lot of points here for a team that is in the top 40 defensively. They're actually better defensively than Gonzaga. They can hang on this number, and I think they will tonight. Give me San Francisco plus 9 against Gonzaga. Other college basketball that hasn't started yet because the Montana State against Weber State is live right now. Northern Kentucky's money line, minus 114 against Milwaukee. And then Nichols laying the 5.5 in their matchup with Texas A&M Commerce. Cavs, hot start. We have them plus 6.5 against the Phoenix Suns. The other NBA selections are Bulls Mavs over the 232, and then we're taking the Raptors plus 16 against the Denver Nuggets. Don't like the spot for Denver. Played Boston, beat Boston, handled the sleepy spot against Utah. Look ahead, play in Miami. Raptors can catch them sleeping here tonight and certainly hang inside the 16. Scoreless, by the way, first period with that game between the Rangers and the Devils. So certainly nothing from Mika Zibanejad left, but a lot of time left still in that game. A lot of rooting still to go. A lot of sizzle on this board. I'm Kevin Walsh, Game Time Decisions. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.